Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the FCC. Not everyone is here yet, but we're going to start because I think Frederique needs as much seconds as she can grab. And I'll first make some announcement. My name is Florence de Changy. I'm a reporter for Le Monde and currently the president of the club, and of course delighted to be the host today. Coming up, we have it's the end of the month of March, but we still have a super packed program. Tomorrow, another club lunch when we discuss China's war on the internet and how the West lost the web with James Griffith from CNN. The following day, Wednesday, we have another bad news for China and for the media, how China is muzzling the media at home and abroad. And then on Thursday, we have another bad news event. All this is preparing for today's event, of course, which is about can the UN Security Council survive a new Cold War? We have a former Indian ambassador discussing the relevance of the UN Security Council. And then next week, I'll go quickly. Well, actually, I'll mention on the way that on Saturday we have journalism conference all day. It's open to everyone. Lots of fascinating conferences and workshops. So even if you're not a correspondent, or a journalist, feel free to join. And then next week we will show Abacus, small enough to jail. We may host Taksin, but it's not confirmed yet. And we have a dinner with Alan Rusbridger, the former editor-in-chief of The Guardian. We'll talk about why journalism matters more than ever and how it has to adapt to survive. That's on Wednesday week at night. And I think I'll stop here, but we still have a few more until the end of the month. I hope you all enjoy how busy we are with providing you a great program. Now, today is good news for a change. And I should tell you that when I tried to pitch the idea of hosting Frederique, there was a bit of sarcasm among my peers and my fellow journalists who said, "Come on, Florence, what has hope got to do with journalism?" It sounded like a joke, and I just said, "Don't worry, guys, leave it with me. I know Frederique is worth listening to, and we'll do an event, and people who attend will not regret it." So I think you've read the. You've read the leaflet, the presentation. I think I should leave as much time to Frederique as she needs. Frederique has just arrived yesterday morning. She has the energy of a warrior, that's no doubt, because she's been non-stop since she arrived yesterday morning. And and I look forward to listening to her. Please welcome Frederique.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm impressed. So, hello everyone. My name is Frederique Bedos. Let me put my presentation on the screens up. Voila, got it. Very good. First of all, I'd like to thank warmly Florence de Changy and the members, the whole team of the FCC for the invitation. Let me tell you that I consider it a real privilege for me to be able to talk in this place today in front of all of you. I'm a journalist and I love my job. I've been doing it for more than 20 years now, mostly on TV, on radio, in France and abroad. In 2008, I've been hit by a double awareness in my professional life and in my personal life. It made the big bang in my heart, and I decided to address my profession in a brand new way. As a journalist, I started to take a fresh look, a critical look at today's media world, and especially on television because it is the most popular media and the one that has the most influence. And when we look carefully at the programs, we quickly realize that violence has invaded the screens. And the way TV describes the world generates more and more anxiety. So when you think about it, that means that TV spends huge means in order to spread out at a very large scale fear in our minds and in our hearts. The problem is fear is the worst counselor. It causes selfishness, the search for the scapegoat. It makes us stigmatize the others, the ones that are different from us. And ultimately, it pushes us to build walls to separate each other. And this is indeed the phenomenon that is observed around the world with physical walls now. At the same time that I had this professional awareness, I had all the values of my childhood coming back to my mind, and I had a rather special childhood. Alors ça c'est moi, voilà. Voilà, I've been very lucky to be raised by an amazing couple in a little town in the north of France. My parents were very simple people, but they had big hearts. So they adopted me, but not only me. We were 20 children adopted from all over the world. And all the children my parents adopted were considered unadoptable. It means that the society already condemned all those children because they were too traumatized, they were too old, they were too heavily handicapped, and as a matter of fact, very often it was a mix of all this at the same time. So we are in 2008 when I realize that my parents are real heroes. Heroes in the shadow, as nobody ever talks about them, unsung heroes, and humble heroes, because they have never done anything to be in the spotlight or for the glory. And you know what? Well, men and women just like them, humble heroes, there are many, everywhere in the world. They have not all adopted 20 children, but they tackle different problems, concrete issues that they have identified. They all have decided to roll up their sleeves and take action. And when we see the result of their actions, we are completely amazed. We are deeply moved too, because we see transformed destinies, lives saved. This is really the result of their actions. And there is a very powerful mirror effect, because we can identify ourselves with these heroes. They are men and women who look just like us. They do not have the fortune of Bill Gates, nor the brain of Einstein for most of them. We understand then that it is never too late, that everything is always possible, and that it's in our hands. If we dream of a better world, it's up to us to build it, because we are the world. And that's good news also, because the advent of a better world can't be done without us, without each and every one of us. This is good news because it gives substance to our hope. It makes it concrete. It's not only a question of philosophy or morality or good feelings. If we are more and more to wake up each morning by deciding to give the best of ourselves, de facto, the world changes. So it also makes us responsible. Voilà. I then decided to create an NGO of information called Le Projet Imagine, namely the Imagine Project. It is 2008 when I decided to leave the world of traditional media to found this NGO. The idea is to free myself from commercial pressure, regain some freedom and independence in order to launch a new way of informing. I thought it was urgent to do journalism, yes, but with hope. And that makes a difference. This original editorial line, journalism with hope, does not mean doing positive journalism or good news journalism. On the contrary, it means facing the issues of our time, avoiding the caricatures that humiliate us all, being very demanding without ever falling into elitism, because our target is the general public. Once the public has better understood the situation, it will be able to ask the question, what can we do together to improve things? It's a journalism that always looks forward in the future in a constructive way and believes that anything is always possible. Then journalism is fully useful. It's when it makes the public want to stand up to act. Let's not forget that journalism is a pillar of democracy. It is because a citizen is well informed that he becomes an enlightened citizen and that he will be able to fully play his role in the city. With this unique editorial line, we make films that portray humble heroes from around the world, those men and women who do exceptional things at the service of the common good and who help to improve our world. We also make documentaries on social issues, and as a matter of fact, this is one of the things that is quite original with this NGO. It's at the service of all causes, because we talk about humanitarian issues, social issues, but also we talk about environment, biodiversity, basically anything that can improve our world. And talking about that, let me give you one example. You can see the poster of one of our long feature films. This is a film about gender equality worldwide. It's called Women and Men. And this film has been selected at the Cannes Film Festival in 2015. It has had many rewards, and right now, as I'm speaking to you, it has been already seen by 50 million people around the world. It's subtitled in 11 languages. So this is really the power of the media. So the challenge of this NGO is to take advantage of the power of the media in order to spread out on a large scale messages of hope that make people want to act. So the real goal of the NGO is not only to make beautiful movies, otherwise we would just be a film production company. The goal of the NGO is bring about a large movement of action at the service of a more just and sustainable world. It is the Imagine movement. So it's a mechanic. All our films are distributed internationally, so film after film, the movement grows. And this movement is embodied by individual action, of course, but it is also incarnated by collective action. So we have designed programs for schools at the level of college, high school, and higher education. We have programs for companies, then we work with the human resources, for prisons, and for the cities. The mayors of the cities ask for our help to dynamize their territory and to embark their inhabitants into this adventure. So the main purpose of this movement consists on gathering all the goodwills. Each film is an invitation for everyone to do their part. This is the Hummingbird Legend. That's why this is our logo. You all know about the Hummingbird Legend. You know, when there is a big fire in the forest and all the animals flee, but then they look behind themselves and they see the hummingbird coming back and forth from the lake with a little water in his mouth, and he keeps on doing that, and they say, "What are you doing, hummingbird? It's nonsense, because you won't be able to end the fire with yourself." And he says, "Maybe, but I'm doing my part." And that's exactly this invitation, because if we all do our parts, we will really bring about the change. So even though le projet Imagine, let me see. So the issue at stake, of course, is social cohesion. And this is the exact field of the action of le projet Imagine. Our societies are built on stories. To come together as a nation, people need to project themselves, to recognize themselves in a common history, in common destiny. When our stories become seriously damaged, polluted by violence, by despair, they generate anxiety and fear. And these dark feelings fuel identitarian attitudes that lead to radicalization. On the contrary, Le Projet Imagine works on the beauty of our story. It broadly disseminates a story that places hope and commitment at the heart of society and that values the role of every individual. It is an absolutely essential counter-discourse that we must have. in an era of fake news, a time where populations don't trust official and institutional information, a time where conspiracy theories abound. How can the democratic model survive? How can citizens become engaged when they no longer believe anything their elites are saying? The idea of Le Projet Imagine is not to get into the debating ring or to point a finger at things that are going wrong, because people are overwhelmed and can't really tell one thing from another anymore. So, in my view, to fight against this level of mistrust head-on is the lost cause. What is needed is to recreate a bedrock of trust. And that is what Le Projet Imagine has been building since its inception. That was hard to say. Even though Le Projet Imagine is still a small and fairly recent NGO, its entire history is rooted in authenticity. Le Projet Imagine gives a voice to real and humble stories that reveal the journey of women and men whose values and struggles have a powerful appeal to our idealistic nature. And that youthful idealism is exactly what ISIS is addressing. ISIS and all kinds of terrorist factions. ISIS has an excellent understanding of the power of images and is using audiovisual and fiction language in a highly professional way to recruit all over the world. ISIS has invested huge resources to produce propaganda films for enlistments, and it is quite appalling to see that these terrorist factions have budgets that are so much larger than our small NGO, and I think it's outrageous, really. So like Le Projet Imagine, ISIS has understood that emotions are what moves people, gets them going. What ISIS has done is to weaponize emotions. And Le Projet Imagine uses the same motivations but at the service of life. And that really makes a difference. So we need to understand that there is a battle around, and this is a media battle, and this is very important. Another very important idea is that today our democracies are sick, because we no longer have a unifying discourse, nor do we have spaces for dialogue in which we can express opinions and differences with respect, without violence, confrontation, and so on. So because they no longer feel that they are being heard and recognized, people are withdrawing. Society is breaking down into small communities of ideas, and little by little, they too are becoming more radical. This won't necessarily go as far as jihadism, but in any case, at a given point in time, dialogue is no longer possible. Le Projet Imagine, with its various programs for supporting social action on the ground, is recreating such spaces for dialogue. For instance, the Imagine Cities program works on bringing together the inhabitants of a given area and gathering them together to express their opinions, their fears, their disagreements, or even their anger, but in a warm and friendly atmosphere where they are listened to. When people have the opportunity to express themselves, to feel heard and understood, that is the beginning of the pacification process. Once the confusion and despair have been expressed, we move on to the solutions. Through workshops, brainstormings, and collective intelligence, people gradually identify and prioritize the actions they will invest their energies into. And the idea is to enable people to reclaim their lives, their regions, their world. And little by little, the story grows, enriched by the actions of every individual on the ground, and hope grows in their hearts and minds, together with what they are building with their own hands. So our mission is not a humanitarian mission, strictly speaking. It is a mission of advocacy, awareness, and mobilization on a large scale. It can actively participate to a deep transformation of the atmosphere of our society, which is too much based on competition instead of cooperation. Here in Asia, the economy is flourishing, and that can be seen by some of the Western countries as a source of anxiety because of this competition mentality. But if I can show to the world some wonderful Asian humble heroes, then everyone will discover the kindness, the altruism, the generosity of the populations around here. So let's have a look at what this NGO looks like, and then I will do my conclusion. I've got a little short film so you can see the atmosphere of the NGO. Is that okay for you? Yes? Well, good, because I don't have a plan B. Okay. Oh, mince. Alors attention, il y a un truc. Hop là. Il faut qu'on fasse quelque chose. Can you help me to? Yes. I don't know why it didn't appear. Here it appears, but not on the screens. So now you have a better idea of what it looks like. As you can see, we are doing so many things, events and everything. Since the creation of Le Projet Imagine, it's my first time in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has always been a very cosmopolitan place, and that's the reason why I think that the mission of my NGO should raise a lot of interest here. I need some help to identify unsung heroes around here, but also I need partners in the Hong Kong media to highlight them. And of course, it's very important to transform all this positive energy into actions on the ground through the development of some of our programs in schools, in neighborhoods, in companies, and so on. So spreading those values embodied by those exemplary lives is, I think, a powerful way to build a peaceful world. Peace is a culture, and it needs to be tended. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Frederique. I think it's truly amazing and very inspiring. You were right to say in the beginning that it's not good news, actually.
Yeah.
It's much more than good news.
It's very important for me not to really to make the difference.
Yes. Sorry, I simplified by mentioning good news, but
no, don't worry.
Yeah. So and also I think this movie shows it's amazing what you've achieved in 10 years.
Yeah, in less than 10 years. Yes.
We can imagine behind all these pictures pretty incredible stories. Yes. You were saying before you have filmed already
33, something like that.
Yeah. Could you, before we start the Q&A, just say a little bit about the people you've highlighted through these 33 films? It's already a very big catalogue.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's true that what is really amazing is that I began everything from scratch, as we can say, because when I decided to leave the traditional media, I didn't have money, I didn't have material, I didn't have team, just my heart beating into my chest. And so the first movie, we've done it with a borrowed camera and one volunteer, and let's go. And of course, my target was the media around the world, the TV channels mostly, because it's so powerful. But the first movies were so poor technically, so I knew that it wasn't possible to propose that right away. But so we've begun on internet, but I was sure that the authenticity of those stories is so powerful that it would be bigger and bigger, and that's what happened. So more and more people were really deeply touched, and they wanted to be volunteers. So now we've got something like 450 volunteers, and many of them are really professional from the media. So you've got sound engineers, cameraman, and so on. And so bit by bit, we could improve those films until the level of quality required to be able to distribute through the TV channels. And so the first humble hero that I highlighted was an amazing, is still an amazing guy, actually. He's very heavily handicapped because he was born without hands and legs, but he's one of the most amazing sportsmen in disability sports, you know, and he's got so many medals. And I think in Rio it was his seven Olympics. Can you imagine? And he has done in 3 different sport techniques, you know, in rugby and basket. But that's not because he's so good at sport, even though he's so heavily handicapped. It's because at the age of 18, as soon as he could get out from the hospitals, the first thing he made is to found associations to be able to distribute medicine, go to see the disadvantaged children from the third world and those who were handicapped, and try to bring together the people and get rid of the taboos and everything. So he's doing such hard work, going everywhere in the world. He doesn't have legs, and you've got to run behind him. I mean, it's amazing. This guy is so full of energy. So for me, to make his portrayal was very powerful because, you know, in our films, it's always many messages combined. Because when you see, if I tell you I've got a friend without arms and legs, you're gonna think, oh, the poor guy. But when you see the portrayal of this guy, he's giving you the smile, he's got so much more energy than yourself. So it completely changed the way you think about handicap. And that's really what's so powerful, because it's how we can bring each other's closer. And so we need to get rid of some prejudices and stereotypes or things like that, you know. So this guy is full of life, and then you really realize that our humanity is so mysterious. It's so mysterious and it's wonderful. So it's one of my first movies. And because I'm in Asia, let's talk also about the fact that I made a fantastic, fantastic, not because I'm not the director of this movie, so I can't say it's fantastic, but I mean, it's a portrayal of an Indian surgeon. His name is Dr. Shetty, and this surgeon is amazing because he is, you know, very gifted with his hands. So from all Asia, people want to be operated by him if they want to save their lives. But he said to himself, well, as a surgeon, it's as if we were giving labels of price on the head of the people, because if you don't have the money, then your child won't be saved, or you can. So, and this is unacceptable. And so, as when he asked himself about that, he has given all his energy and skills to find a new way of addressing his work, and now he's running 37 hospitals, and so even the children from the slums can be healed and have access to high level of technicity of surgery. And with these 37 hospitals right now, he's doing as many surgery as the Great Britain in itself. Can you imagine? And it's only the beginning of his adventure. So, you know, for me, I mean, it's so scandalous that most of the time we have never heard about those people who are doing, I mean, exceptional things. And it's so full of hope, because when we see that, and it's always very universal, their message. I mean, what is it all about? It's a question of the price of our lives. And this is universal. And then you see that, and you think, well, there are solutions. It's really what it's all about. That's the reason why I say it's not good news journalism. It's about how we are going to tackle the problems, the real problems on the ground, because there are always solutions.
Great, thank you so much. Now feel very free to ask questions you may have for Frederique.
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hughes, Asia Finance Editor at Reuters. Can you talk a little bit about how you see your project and the idea of hope that you're putting out there, how it should or could interact more with the traditional media, such as Reuters and the big organizations?
That's what I'm working on. I mean, because I think maybe I hope I've been clear about that. It's not, I don't want to be in competition with the traditional media. In a way, I try to influence the traditional media and to be more and more present in their editorial line. And so each time I I have one of my film broadcasted into those TV channels, it's like I'm winning some space, you know. And now with my production company, what I try to do is to embrace all kind of format. I try to design new TV concepts, new magazines. I also want to make fictions, you know, based on true lives, true story, because if it's embodied by very famous actors, maybe the young people will be even more attracted by those films. And I mean, those Humber heroes, they've got hectic lives, and I mean, it's romantic, it's full of adventures, so it's really, you know, and that's the reason why it's so important not to address this as good news, because I mean, good news is boring, you know, where is the adventure? But the reality is the battle. We are all invited to do the battle all together, the battle for justice, the battle to bring peace, because this is what the paradox is all about. Peace and everything about justice doesn't come naturally. We've got to fight for it. It has always been like that, but it's a good fight, and it's absolutely fascinating to see that, well, my role is precious too, you know, that can't be done without me, and that's exactly what we want to do. So bit by bit, it's really funny to see that next year we're going to celebrate the 10 years of the NGO. Can you imagine? It's amazing. But when I began, I know that many people from the traditional media looked at me as if I was like an alien and what is it all about? Nonsense. But bit by bit, the idea has become more and more common. I mean, so many media now try to enlighten good things too, you know? So it has changed, I think the context has completely changed, and it's more and more like that. Is it a correct answer? Yeah, I try to do my best to. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks. Yes, Edith?
The mic is here, yeah.
Hi, thank you. Well, my question is very simple. How do you identify stories, and how do you avoid political capture?
That's it's a simple but very powerful question. Huh? Thank you. First of all, the identification of the unbelievers, it's really funny because when I began this adventure, of course, I had spotted few of them that I knew very well because I wanted to be sure that it wasn't bullshit on the ground, you know, so I knew them very well. And so I began to put online those few first films, and the fact is the audience immediately understood what it was all about. So the people denounce me, the unbelievers from everywhere in the world. They write to me through the website, through the social media, and say, have you heard about this woman here or this man there are doing this? So we've got big lists, and of course we are working on those lists and everything. So it's very easy for me to identify them because it comes to me, you know. And I think more and more the NGO will be popular, more and more we will have it, and it's going to grow. And the political side is very interesting because if you think about it, this NGO is very about politics, but in a noble way. I mean, what politics is all about? It's about the city and the role of each citizen into the city. And that's exactly what we are talking about, trying to foster the commitment of each citizen. So it's very political in a way. But what I don't want, of course, is to be taken by each side, the left side, the right side, or whatever, you know. It's because we are beyond that. We are talking about something universal and how all of us as a human being, we're going to be able to change things, you know. So it's really about the common good and everything. So for us, it's very, very important. But of course, bit by bit, many governments wants to work with us, but not in a noble way. You know, with the French government, we've done many things already. The NGO is officially recognized by the United Nations, so of course we are doing many things with different institutions, and it's very interesting because of course we've got access to the figures and things like that. It's serious work, and that's exactly the way we want to address it. And also, for example, OECD has decided to make a partnership with us, and I mean OECD is not only very serious institution, but I mean they're not known for being like how can I say like philanthropy or whatever. I mean, it's very economic and everything, but what they have identified is the fact that we've got access to the big audience and the general public, and they think, well, we're doing many studies, many surveys, but the general public never have access to that, and so it means they are not enlightened enough before voting, and there are big consequences, and that's very interesting to see that they want to work with us because of that.
Thank you. Another question? Yeah,
Bettina.
It's sort of following on from the previous two questions. How much support are you getting from the corporate sector?
Yes, well, for the moment, all the money we've got for the NGO comes from the private sector, and those donations come from persons, individuals, or for companies. And for example, you've got few films who are sponsored by companies, but it's through donations. It means that they give money to give the chance to the film to have as much power to be distributed as largely as possible, and so it means that they are very proud to link their image with the powerful message in the film. So it's a very win-win way to do it, and it's very important for me to have as many partnerships with companies as possible if they are doing it in goodwill and doing real stuff. But it's very important for me to embark as many people as possible. I want to work with people, not as a confrontation or denouncing things and everything. I want to work with as many people as possible. Right now, the companies know that they have a lack of meaning into, and the people who work for them, they want to find new meanings in their lives. So they try to find solutions about that. And when they discover what we are doing, they say, well, this energy is something that will be very powerful to our colleagues. So how can we work together? And that's the reason why we've designed programs in order to work with the human resources, so that the people who are working in the company can also be fed by all of that. We've got also this program for schools, which is really, really powerful. It's so important. In school, we learn so many things, but not really to be a human being. And it's a basis. And it's really, we've designed a very powerful tool, because everything is done, all the workshop throughout the year, and so we train the teachers to know how to use our methodology and all our material, and so the children, the students, will be able to have workshop every week for 1 hour, 1 hour and a half throughout the year. And so, of course, after 1 year of the program, believe me, you've prepared the next generation of very committed citizens. And it's amazing, because they are so, this idealistic nature of them. Then it's fed, and they won't be taken by, those dark factions and everything.
Great. Actually, just on this one, where is it? In which country do you have these education programs?
We've got a lot in France, of course, but we've made also some of this in London. Right now, the French-American School of New York has decided to do it in September. And we've begun a little bit in Africa, but it seems that the school has got problem. But it was in 2 countries in Africa, in Senegal, and another one, I forgot, I don't think it was Ghana, I'm not sure. So it's a work in progress, yes. But the program is absolutely fully made, and right now.
By whom?
By me and my team.
Oh,
but
wow.
Because we always try to have many people who are really, really at the top level of education, if it's about education. Right now, we are doing an observatory about the movement, the Imagine movement, and all our programs. And it's the president of the observatory is one of the biggest sociologist in the world. Is French, but his name is not French. His name is Michel Viviorca, and Viviorca is really is a specialist also of violence, of racism, things like that, and is very, very famous. And so he's doing a committee with different type of people who are all very high level people. So it's really fascinating, because we innovate, we try to do new things, a new way of addressing all of that, and this is really a question of audacity, we say that. Yeah. It's great, I love that. And because we are agile, we can try new things, but we always try to be surrounded by very high-level people, not only the goodwill, but also the skills and and the legitimacy.
Sure, great. Next question, yes, here, please.
That's great, because you've got a lot of questions.
I enjoyed your talk very much. My name is John Antweiler. I've been a member of the club for many, many years.
Yes.
And I'm retired.
Okay. You don't look like retired.
I didn't say lazy. I was encouraged to come to this talk partly by the title, Journalism of Hope.
Yes.
And I'm interested in what steps you think can be taken to get just one story of hope on the front page of a newspaper once a week, just once a week.
Yeah.
It's not asking too much
Yeah,
because
yeah.
any newspaper I pick up, it's just bad news, bad news,
Yeah,
bad news.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what steps can be taken really to get something,
Yeah. Something catchy.
catch somebody's eye?
Yes.
As you said, good news is boring.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. And I'm not interested by good news or, for me, it would be not only nonsense, but even outrageous. It means we just like not to look at the problems and try to focus on good things because we feel better. But I mean, hey, there are problems and we need to face them. That's exactly what our humble heroes are doing, So it's a question of how we can face it, but with hope. And that makes a difference. So it means for me, every single story has got to be treated. But how do you treat it? And journalism with hope, which is my editorial line, is a question of spirit. It means I'm gonna be able to really to dig into this topic. I want to know exactly what's going on. Even if it's dramatic, I've got to face it. And if you try to have a diagnosis as accurate as possible, then you enlighten the citizens. So it's very important that we are aware if there is a dramatic situation about something, so that as a citizen now you know about it and you can really try to commit yourself to improve things. But in your spirit, even though it's dramatic on the ground, you continue to think it's possible to improve it. It's possible to do something. Because it's true. It's always possible. And this is really what's the beauty of our humanity. It's because we are creative and we have always been able to reinvent ourselves and our societies. This is what progress is all about. And so it's a way to treat things. If you do all your stories, saying what you see on the ground, but in the same time encouraging to take action and to make progress, then it's completely different. This film Women and Men about gender equality, believe me, it's not good news journalism. You see, some stuff are said in the film that really, this is something, because this is a reality. But for me, there were so many aspects that I wanted to enlighten at the same time. First of all, not fuel the battle of sex, not try to confront men against women. It's about how we can be together, So, and it's about equality, so it's not about, But there's a way to bring all of this, all those ideas. So it means also to get rid of ideology. When it's too ideological, it confronts ourselves. So we go back to the facts first. Go back to the facts, and some of the facts are so powerful that, wow, it makes a shock of awareness. For example, gender equality, most of the time we talk about sexual harassment or who's doing the dishes. Oh, the big question, But you know what? Women will represent 52% of the population. So each time you do something wrong to the woman, it has consequences on all the society. So the victims of those inequalities is not only women, but also men and the children. We are all the victims of those inequalities. If you are capable to enlighten that, to highlight that, then people will be aware, and even the men will take this, And so, for example, there was one fact that I highlight on the film, and I remember so many students around the world are so amazed by that. It's really a real shock. I made the interview of a person from the Food and Agriculture Organization in Roma, and she made a survey about inequalities in the agriculture field. And, well, there is gender inequalities in the agriculture. Can you imagine that? Well, if we address those inequalities, just because of the improve of the production in the agriculture sector, you will be able to save at least 150 million people from hunger. Well, that's a fact, and that's not about ideology. Who's talking about these kind of things? Then you've got a completely different idea about what gender equality is all about. And then you think, okay, there is a subject, let's do something, because, it's dramatic, But then it means, if it's really dramatic, it means it's a real source of progress for the whole humanity. If you tackle this, then it's a big progress. So it's very important to talk about the dramatic things, but full of hope. Yes, we can do something against that all together. That's what it's all about. And I think it's catchy enough.
Yeah. Great. Is there one more question? Otherwise, I'll take the last one. Yeah, please, Edith, go for it.
Yes.
We can share.
Okay.
Well, you said that this was your first trip to Hong Kong,
Yes.
and you're looking for stories.
As the founder of this NGO.
Right.
10 years ago I came, but I wasn't with the NGO at that time.
Are you working with anyone, and do you have a program, and are you spreading the news in Chinese, especially Cantonese?
So I don't have a special program. I just try to make a breakthrough. Say, hello, I'm here, I exist. And so fortunately for me, I've got few friends here, and they have tried to open few doors, the first few doors, and I hope it's going to spread out, because the miracle of Le Projet Imagine has always been like that. It has always begun like that, humbly, and because it's a universal breakthrough in the hearts. Bit by bit, people come. Yeah.
Okay,
that's my plan, you see. Big strategy.
Actually, it's, my question was also a little bit along the same line, asking you if you see the NGO growing. How do you see it? Do you think you will reach a size where it will become too big? I mean, have you got an ideal project in mind, or will you just let it happen?
I'm so impatient, it's too big.
Oh, really?
No, it's true that I'm very ambitious with Le Projet Imagine since the very first day. Even though I was beginning with nothing at all, I'm very ambitious just because I think it's necessary. You know, so many people think about changing the world, and so many people are doing amazing things for that, but not so many people have realized that the role of the media is central. I mean, this is a big mic. If you've got such a powerful tool at the service of despair, and so people are influenced by that every single day. So it means that so much energy is wasted because people don't think it's possible, so they just sit in the chair, and that's all. If, on the contrary, you use this power of influence to really to make people believe, well, this is possible, so I can do something, even though it's small, you know, then it means on the ground you can completely change the scale of commitment, and you can accelerate the phenomenon like that. And that's exactly, you know, I've got such a sense of urgency in my heart, and that's the reason why I say, let's take this powerful tool. It has never been as powerful, and now it's really doing so much damage. Not only about, as I said, not only about despair and everything, but also now with fake news, conspiracy theories, things like that. It's so dangerous. If we don't address all of this, we don't know where we're going right now. But right now, I mean, and this phenomenon is very recent. It's something like 2 or 3 years, but now we know that nobody can avoid that. So it's so powerful like that, and everything is accelerating. So if we don't grab this thing and try to make a re-equilibrium into this system, I think it's a big deal, really, and that's what we try to do.
Wonderful. Well, unless there was a last little question. No. Well, then I think we should thank you very much, Frederique, for this super inspiring talk. And I have a little token of appreciation for you for remembering your first trip in Hong Kong.
I hope I'm going to come back.